Hello and welcome to Whisky Project. My name is Amit
My name is Suj.
and we are talking about why whiskey. So this is a three-part series that we are doing. What is whiskey? Why is whiskey? And how is whiskey? Well, we've done what is whiskey and you'll be wondering, what do you mean by why is whiskey? So basically what why is whiskey means is what makes whiskey unique among other spirits that are there? Like, why would one choose whiskey over, let's say, rum or tequila or gin for that matter? So it's pretty interesting. We've found out a few things that we would like to share with you. So let's go.
Now, there are heaps of reasons why whiskey. A standard measure of whiskey, according to the Scotch Whisky Association, which is 25 ml, contains only 55 calories, and it does not have any fat or added carbs. Now, obviously, there are so many different aspects of why whiskey, but the most important aspect is one thing and one thing only: flavor. And the other thing is provenance. But let's talk about flavor and provenance as two different things. Now, provenance simply means, the origin or where the whiskey, where it comes from. Yeah, that's right. Where it comes from, and flavor has, it complements each other in many ways. Now, flavor can come from different aspects apart from the obvious grain. So it comes from different characteristics like your landscape. You talk about, distillery characteristics. You talk about location, you talk about water. There are so many different aspects where flavor comes from. A lot of people like to, classify flavors into different, boxes as well, as you may say. Now, light and floral. So when people talk about light and floral whiskey, the words that come to your mind is delicate, really easy to nose. So those are sort of things you think about when you think about light or floral whiskey. The first whiskey that comes to my mind is one of my favorite whiskeys, the Aaron 18.
Yes.
Yeah, light and floral. The other flavor profiles that people talk about is, or we as Whisky Project talk about, is fruity and spicy. Fruity and spicy, hey, the first thing that comes to my mind is Glendronach 15 Revival.
Oh, yeah,
it's a beautiful whiskey.
It is.
It's going to come back soon. The other one is smoky, light, and smoky and peaty.
Your Isla whiskies.
Yeah, your Isla whiskies. So anywhere on the Isla, you usually find 90% of your Isla whiskies will be smoky and peaty. Now, again, we're a big fan of smoke and peat. So the first thing that comes to our mind is Ardbeg or Kilchoman. So the Ardbeg 10 or the Kilchoman 100% Isla is one of those things that come to our mind.
We can't miss Lefroy though.
Oh, of course. The Lafroigs and Lagavulins, you can't go wrong with those.
Yeah.
Now, again, if you put it on a quadrant, we like to put whiskey on quadrants. So the 4 quadrants could be rich, smoky, light, and delicate. Yeah. So if you're thinking about a rich and smoky whiskey, the first thing that comes to mind is, the Lagavulin 16.
Yeah.
Lag 16 is a good example. Smoky and light, I would usually think of, the Ardbeg 10 or the Kilchoman 100% Isla.
Yeah.
The reason I say smoky and light is also because it's heavily smoky, but at the same time, in terms of color, it's very light. It's almost close to a Ardbeg.
Ardbeg 10 actually has a little bit of sweetness as well underneath.
Yes,
so,
yes.
Yeah.
So that gives you the light characteristics.
Yeah.
When you talk about light and delicate, again, I think about the Aaron 18. It's one of those things, from the Isle of Arran. I think it's a characteristic from the landscape again. You think about delicate and rich. I'm thinking the Abelar Abuna.
Yeah.
That's a cask strength whiskey. And it's really heavy. It's full bodied. Yeah. But when you talk about landscape,
winter whiskey, I guess.
it is. And when you talk about the landscape and location as well of different whiskeys, one of the things that first comes to our mind is Talisker. The Talisker 57 degree north.
Yeah.
We talk about where the Talisker the actual and where it's also located, the actual warehouse.
Yep.
It's close to the sea. So you actually get a lot of characteristics in most of the Talisker whiskies
Sea
from the
spray.
sea breeze. Yes,
Yeah.
sea breeze, seaweed, yes, and a lot of saltiness from the sea as well.
Absolutely.
So, flavors, there is so many things to talk about. I'm sure we'll cover a lot more in our future videos about different flavor characteristics and where it comes from. So you can talk about casks as well. Casks basically play a major part. So if you talk about young whiskies, most of the flavor comes from the distillate characteristics. But if we talk about older whiskies, most of the flavor comes from the cask. So we'll obviously do more videos and talk about, where the flavor comes from, and we'll talk about different casks as well in the future. And one of the reasons we love whiskey is purely because it's so versatile.
So you might be thinking why we are talking about flavor and provenance. Well, look at it this way. So have you seen people who drink gin or vodka or any other spirit for that matter ask about a particular flavor that they're wanting to kind of experience, or provenance of a cask or a bottle of let's say tequila or something like that. So we might be wrong, but in our kind of a knowledge, we think that only whiskey has that array of flavors, like thousands and thousands of different flavors that you can actually choose from. And one might like a Bolvini 12 and the other Macallan 12, and they would stick with those two flavors. And though they are pretty much like very similar in their flavor composition in some ways, but then you have diehard Macallan fans and diehard Bolvini fans.
And that comes from the distillate characteristics as well.
Absolutely, and that is exactly why you cannot compare whiskey and its flavor profile and provenance to any other spirit.
True.
And that's exactly why we thought we should talk about why flavor and provenance makes a big difference in whiskey and other spirits. Well, now talking about versatility, think about any other spirit that you have in your bar or you've had or you enjoy, and then think about whiskey. How many different ways can we enjoy whiskey? Like you can go neat just by itself. Add some ice, add some water. People add warm water to whiskey. I've seen people like enormous amounts of mixtures. So think about soda, your cola, coconut water. Like it's unending. Then Boilermakers, like people are experimenting with when you're having whiskey and a choice of beer, and there are beers that complement certain whiskeys as well. So what we are trying to say today is whiskey is one drink that is like possibilities are unending. Like you can try so many different combinations and they will be amazing. Like not all of them would be, but they will all be different, and that's why they'll give you a different taste or flavor, even memory. Again, talking about memories, that's pretty much one reason why I got attracted to whiskey. And if you remember in our first video that we did about us, we told why I and Suj both got into whiskey, and one of the major kind of attraction for me was when I tasted whiskey, and it was Ardbeg. It basically transported me to a time in the past. So whiskey has that ability to maybe give you to create a nostalgic feeling, a feeling of nostalgia. So that's a very strong point in favor of whiskey as to why it is so unique and why it's magical. Another thing that comes to mind, talking about why whiskey, is actually in one of these books. It's called World Whiskey, and it's by Charles MacLean. And he was kind enough to actually give us his autograph. And obviously, best of luck for Whiskey Project as well. So we are really thrilled we're using his book. In the introduction, he actually mentions, once a taste for whiskey is developed, particularly malt whiskey, the passion for information about this beguiling subject is inexhaustible. Well, that sums it up really nicely. Why whiskey?
Absolutely, and that's why we love whiskey. Yeah. So we'll obviously talk more about the next series in the next episode. So the next series is, well, not the next series. The next part of the series is how whiskey.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the whiskey making process. So we are hoping to bring something really interesting to you for that series, for that part of the series as well. Make sure, in the meanwhile, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow our videos. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to, make them to the video, and we'll do our best to respond to them. Also, follow us on our socials and just our website, which is www.whiskyproject.com. And make sure you click on the bell icon to join our notification squad. Thank you very much for today. We'll see you very soon.
Thank you and see you soon. We should start saying Solange. To talk about why whiskey. Part of three parts that we're doing. We'll start over again.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So basically, what is whiskey? Why is whiskey? And how is whiskey?
Put it in the post credits.